The purpose of this video is to explain multi-product break-even analysis. This process that I'm going to show you, it looks a little complicated on the surface, but it really is a useful tool because it enables us to be able to calculate the break-even when we have more than one product. So if you think about running any sort of a business, you're rarely, if ever, going to sell only one product. Indeed, you would be much more likely to be selling a variety of products, all of which contribute sort of to the bottom line. So I just think this is a very useful skill to take with you in life, just to know that there is a way to calculate multiple products at one time. I'm going to show you here by hand how to do this, and then we'll take it from there. So first of all, just take a look at what's in front of you. You should have this handout with you, and you want to notice that we have several products that we're interested in here, and that is the sandwich, soft drinks, salad bar, or I'm sorry, the sandwich, the soft drink, potato salad, chips, and the salad bar. And you need to be given some information, so you are here. You're given the selling price, that's annotated there as PI, the selling price. Then you're given also the variable costs, and so the variable costs are noted here as the $I, and I in all of this problem indicates for that particular item. That's what the I is. And then over in the next column we've got forecasted sales, and we're going to notate that as Rev T for that item. It's the price, $2.95, multiplied by this Rev T here that we've got. And because this can also be the volume involved, I have this VLI here. You know, I never sure exactly how much information to provide, but nonetheless, it is computed as taking this 7,000, the forecasted sales, and multiplying it by this $2.95. So if you put that in your calculator, you're going to get this 20,650. So that's the amount of dollars that this place is expected to earn selling sandwiches in a year. So that's the bottom line there. Now when we move to this next column here, it's important to understand that we're sort of changing gears, because now we're talking about how much an individual product contributes to the overall bottom line. That's really what this tells us. And the first computation we've got here, this one here, 1 minus the variable cost divided by the price. You'll remember that from the regular single product break-even analysis. And here this is going to tell us essentially what our contribution is for this product. So what we do is we take 1 minus the variable costs for this product, which are $1.25. So that means that every time we make a sandwich, it costs us this $1.25 right here. But for the $1.25, we then earn $2.95. So we go over here and we put variable costs in the numerator, 1.25, and we're going to divide that by our price, which is what we sell it for, which we know is 2.95. That in our trusty calculator. And just so you can see what I'm doing here, the order of operations is really important. So we open up our parentheses, we put 1 minus, we're going to open a new set of parentheses, 1.25 divided by 2.95, close parentheses with 2 parentheses there, and then hit enter. Here we're going to put this in, being careful to follow order of operations rules. We're going to do 1 minus, open parentheses, 1.25 divided by 2.95, close parentheses for that, and then 1 more, and hit enter. And that's going to give us 0.576. So when we roll it, round it to 2 decimal places, we get this 0.576, and we're going to round that to 0.58, and then you can see that's already right there. The next calculation that we're going to do here is to determine the percent of total sales that the sandwich has contributed. So you'll notice here I've got this 20,650 because that is the amount that the total amount of revenue that we've brought in based on our sandwiches, our $2.95 per sandwich multiplied by the volume of 7,000. And we're going to figure out essentially what this 20,000 is with respect to the total. So we just take 20,650 and divide it by 46,300, and you can see right over here, I don't know if I can show you this here, right over here I've got it calculated for you. I changed the screen setting so you could actually see this. So you get this 0.446, which I have rounded to 0.45 for you. So this essentially tells us that let's just write it out here. This tells us that the sandwich contributes up to it, that the sandwich accounts for about 45% of our total sales. Whereas, you know, just as by way of review, I was just thinking I hadn't actually defined this number for you. And what this tells us is basically our sandwich's contribution per dollar. So for every $1 that we sell, the sandwich contributes 58 cents to our profit, if you will. So this is the contribution per dollar, which I have written up above, but all of these calculations in this column here all tell us basically how much they contribute, how much each product contributes out of $1. So the higher this number is, or the closer to 1 it is, that would mean a greater contribution. And then this column here is the percentage of total sales. So really a better notation would be 45% versus 45 cents. So maybe I should just change that for you, and it will be a little clearer. So there you go, 45% of the total sales that we have of 46,300 could be attributed to the sales that resulted from the sandwiches. One other thing I want to just draw your attention to is, and I told you this in class I'm sure, but right down here, this 27,000, again, a little bit misleading. It's really not dollars, it's really a volume. So it would be better stated without the dollar sign, just like that, because it's a volume measurement, you know, really, as are all of these. I have dollar signs in there because I formatted it like that, but maybe that makes it a little clearer. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next column. And the thing about the next column is, this is what we've been trying to get to right here. We've been after this weighted contribution. We've done all of this so far so we could get here. So the answer to the problem, if you were just looking for the answer, it's going to be down here, the sum of this column, the sum of the WIs for each item. That is what we're after. So we'll go ahead then and take a look at this calculation. Now here's the formula right here. And we're going to use that formula to calculate our numbers for this column. So for the weighted contribution, we start out by taking what's located here in this green column, because that's our first thing here. That's the green column. So we're going to take, I need to change my pen color. I'm going to make it green. So we're going to take 0.58, that's this, and we're going to multiply that by price times volume divided by price, the sum of price times volume. So ostensibly that would be this column right here. Let me just give that a different color. So we'll make that one this blue color. So therefore we'll write out 0.45. So we take the so this is the percent of total sales, and we are multiplying it by the contribution margin. So when we multiply those two things out, we should get this 0.26. And you can see I multiplied it 0.58 times 0.45, and you get this 0.26. And that is our weighted contribution for the sandwich. And what we're trying to do then is calculate that weighted contribution all the way down, and then we're going to sum it up, and then that will give us the denominator of our break-even analysis. Because what we're trying to do is compute this formula right here, which is the break-even for the whole process. So what we have to do is divide our fixed costs right here, which are given somewhere else, by this weighted factor, that number that we're going to get in this box right here. That is sort of like, quasi-like, like P minus variable costs in our denominator of our regular break-even analysis. So it just has a lot more steps because there's a bunch of products that we have to consider. So I'm going to go through the next item on here, the soft drink, and I'm going to go through it a little bit faster, and then I'll leave it to you guys to do the rest of it. Okay, so we'll start here with the soft drink, and we know that that we have to calculate this up here, the 1 minus V over P. So we pull out our trusty calculator, we type in 1 minus 0.3 over 0.8 because those are the numbers that we have, right? The variable costs are 0.3, the price is 0.8, and when we calculate that out, we get 0.625. So we'll put in here 0.63. So that means that for each dollar in sales of soft drinks, we have a contribution to profit of about 0.63 or 63 cents. So that's a pretty good profit margin. Now the next thing we'll do is calculate the percent of total sales that the soft drinks account for, and basically, you know, it's $5,600 out of $4,630. So we have 12% of total sales, which, as you might imagine, is a little bit less than 45% of total sales. Right next to that, I've calculated the total contribution for the soft drink. So you can see that I've taken the 0.63 and multiplied it times 0.12, just like I did before. You know, essentially this number here, we multiply it by this one, and we get this 8% total contribution, if you will. So you can see already that the soft drink contributes much less than the sandwich with respect to a total overall contribution. So you're going to proceed in the same way all the way to the bottom, and when you sum these numbers down, you should get 0.623. And essentially what that 0.623 number is the denominator of our break-even analysis. So if we come on down here just a little bit further, you can see that ultimately what we're trying to do is calculate the break-even for multi-product. So we take the fixed costs, and in this case we're paying rent, which is $2,000 a month. We multiply times 12 to get our numerator, and then we divide that by the weighted factor. So all of the previous computations that have culminated in this 0.623, we use that number to give us something a little bit like this right here, the price minus variable costs. So we divide this out, and what that tells us is the amount of dollars that we need to earn in order to be breaking even. So we need to earn $38,523 in order to break even. So if we go back over here and look at our original estimate for total revenue, we see that it's actually $46,300. And so the first question is, are we even breaking even? And yes, we are able to break even. So we have the calculation for the break even, and yes, we are breaking even. Now, to answer the next question, which product is the most profitable on a per product basis? Remember, we're going to use this column right here for that, and we're going to take the one that has the highest number in this column. So of these two, it's this one, but that is not actually the highest. The highest overall is the next one at 0.7. This one here, the potato salad. Now, that doesn't necessarily tell us which is got the greatest weighted contribution, which is kind of a different thing because this takes into consideration sales. So generally I'll ask what's the most profitable on a per product basis. So in this case it's going to be the potato salad. But what about overall? Well, overall it's going to be the number that the product that has the largest value over here in this column, and I believe in this problem it's the sandwich because it has that 0.26. I believe that's the highest. Now, if we wanted to determine whether or not we can make a profit of $10,000, what we would need to do then is change our equation. Remember, we had fixed costs divided by our weighted factor. So what we need to do then is take our 2,000, go ahead, multiply it by 12, but then we have to add 10,000 to that. Then divide by 0.623. And we calculate that to determine whether or not we are making enough money on this operation to make the profit of $10,000. And what this tells us is that we need to be bringing in $54,574 in order to make a profit of $10,000. So we cannot really earn, given everything being the same, we cannot really earn that much profit, is the answer to that. And now this next problem, number 4, says how many items do we need to sell per month to ensure that we break even? So up here you'll see I've got an equation for you. The break even in dollars is going to be equal to the fixed cost divided by the weighted factor, and that's going to give us our break even per item. So we'll go ahead and multiply that out here so you know what I'm talking about. We're going to write out I'm just going to put an arrow here so you can see. So it's going to be 0.26 multiplied by 0.623 multiplied by 38,523. Now, if you put this number in your calculator exactly like this, you're going to get about 10,000, not 9,901, and that's a rounding issue right there. So I'm going to tell you that in order to get the right number that's on the page, we have to add in, we have to write 0.257, which is the 3 decimal equivalent of 0.26, and then you'll get, and we'll multiply that times 0.38523, and we will get 9,901. As you can see here. If on the other hand we were to use the same number and do it at 38,523 multiplied by 0.26, then we get 10,015. So my bad for not rounding that to 3 decimal places, and I just caught it as I'm doing this. So we're going to leave it the way it is, and we'll just round those to 3 decimal places so that it works out. And the last step over here is to get it into a by month number of units. And so in order to get this number right here, we have to take our 9,901, divide it by $2.95. That tells us how many units in a year we're going to sell. And that's going to give us roughly 3,356.07 sandwiches, essentially, we're going to sell in a year. So let me write that out. So if we want to convert that over to sandwiches in a month, we just take our 3,356 and divide that by 12, because before it was all annual. And when we divide that by 12, we get 279.63, or about 280 sandwiches sold per month. Sandwiches sold per month there. So I think that this provides a pretty solid review of what it can be complicated to calculate this. It's a little easier in Excel and a little not so messy, but when you do it in Excel, it's harder to grasp the whole concept of what you're doing. So just on that last note, let's just make a quick review here of what it is we're doing. So when we do a multi-product break-even analysis, our goal is to come up with the weighted contribution margin. So the goal of it all, so I inserted a page here and just kind of wrote it out because I didn't have enough room on the other page. So the goal of this multi-product break-even is to come up with this weighted contribution margin. From there, we can calculate, so using the WI, we can calculate the break-even point in dollars, which on the previous page was that 38,523, that we must generate to break even. We are also able to calculate the number of products per month that must be sold. And we can also find out the individual contribution by item. And in the end, why do we care about this? Well, it seems like it'd be really useful to know which products are contributing the most to your bottom line and which aren't. Which are your money makers? So it tells us, you know, which product is our money maker. Which product sells. So, you know, it's useful. So I hope you found this helpful. Now before I close out, I just want to hit the homework here. And basically you should finish this handout, this side here, as well as the next side, and do these two problems right here. These are the multi-product. If you haven't done the single product problems, you should do those as well. But if you're all caught up to this point, then this is the only additional homework on this topic. So, I hope you found this helpful, and I will see you soon. And for class on Tuesday, the only homework that's due is this. You do not need to start on the chapter 12 work. I'm not going to post a video or anything this weekend. This is it, and just get this stuff down, and then we'll finish this up in class on Tuesday, and then we'll move into Chapter 12, Inventory Management. So for the final part of this video, I'm going to show you how to do this on Excel, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about rounding and the difference that it makes or doesn't make when you do these computations. So first thing we're going to start with is we've got the data in front of us that represents what we did in class today. I didn't put anything in this column right here, but we'll go ahead and start there. So we're going to start with computing the amount of revenue that we will earn if we sell our forecasted number of sandwiches, which is 7,000. So we hit plus, or you can put an equal sign, either one. We're going to click on our volume, and we're going to multiply that times the price. So that's where we get that 20,650. But I'm going to go right up here, and I'm going to put in here round, just so that we're certain, and we're going to round everything in this problem to 2 decimal places. And the reason we're going to round it to 2 decimal places is because when we use dollars, there really is no such thing as a 3rd decimal place. And so we're going to need to change this to go out so we can see the 2 decimal places if that's what we want. And so there we go, we got it. Now once we have the formula in here, we're multiplying this volume times price. We should copy that formula down like that, and now we've got all of this, all of the amount of revenue that we earn per product here. Now one other thing I want to do is I want to change this so that it is not with the dollar sign there. We're just going to go to a regular number and have it so that it has the comma in it, and we'll get rid of this because we don't need that either. Okay, now in this column here, we're going to do the contribution per dollar. Now remember, the reason why we do this is because we want to know, we want to be able to compare the sandwich to the soft drink to the potato salad to whatever based on $1 of sales. As it is right now, we can look and see that, okay, so for every $2.95, we spend about $1.25 on the variable products that go in it, but it's hard for us to compare from one to the other. So what we do here is we just create a little formula, 1 minus, open parentheses again, and we'll do variable cost divided by price, close our parentheses twice. Now here it's rounding to 2 decimal places. That's because I have it set like that, but if we want it to internally do that so that we can all have exactly the same answers, then we'll need to add comma 2 to the end of this, and we'll have it there. So we'll round those down. And remember, these numbers here tell us the contribution per dollar. So we can see that this item here, the potato salad, it makes the largest contribution for $1 of sales, whereas this, the sandwich, makes the lowest contribution per $1 of sales. Now this next column here has to do with the percent of total sales. So here we're going to figure out our 20,650, what percent of the total amount of sales. So since we don't have the total here, we'll start by doing that. So we click on that box, we go up here, we hit sum, and that's the end of that. And we want it to go out to 2 decimal places there. So since there's no odd numbers, we don't need to worry about it. But then when we get up here, we need to figure out what percent of 46,300 is 20,000. So we hit 20,000, we hit divided by the 46,300 and hit return. Now this is the problem I showed you in class. It's set up as dollars and it really needs to be set up as percentages. So we'll just change that. Another thing that's a problem here, this formula. If we just go to copy this formula down like we normally would, we'll get some crazy thing here, and that's because the formula will move down relative, but in the case of this denominator we want it to stay there, so we're going to anchor it, and we anchor it by clicking on it one time and then pressing F4, and it puts these dollar signs in on either side of F. Now when we copy it down, it won't roll. Only the top number rolls down, but the bottom one won't. which is very convenient. Now we're over here to calculate the weighted contribution. This is the number we're trying to get. Remember, we get this number by taking essentially 45% of 58 cents. So we're going to take this and we're going to multiply it by here. And here we can see that our contribution overall is 0.259. Now, we need to round this again because remember we decided we're doing this all at 2 decimal places because dollars and cents are 2 decimal places. So we're going to cut that down here. Whoops, wrong way. And then we're just going to pull it down. And there's all of our weighted averages. Now in this cell, we just want to sum this, so we'll hit this auto sum. And here, we don't really need to tell it to round to 2 decimal places because you can see it already is. But we'll do it anyways, just to be sure. Now that we have this number, this is a critical number for us. This is what's going to go in our denominator here to do our fixed costs, our break-even computation. So we're just type this in here, but it's not going to do anything because this is just a Microsoft equation. We have to go over here and create our formula. So we're going to say equals, and on our numerator we'll have 12 times 2,000 divided by 0.63, and that's going to give us 38,095. So this is slightly different than the other one, and that's because we divided by 0.63. Had we divided by 0.623, then we get the number we got in class. But we're sticking with our 2 decimal places, so we're going to go here with 3, and that's what we get. Now, if we want to calculate the sales per item to meet break even, well, now we just take each of these numbers and multiply it by our weighted factor. So we'll need to anchor again. So we'll take this 38,095 multiplied by our weighted factor. And that's our 9,004. Probably already rounding, but we'll tell it anyways, just to be sure we all get the same answer here. And again, we need to anchor our 38,095 because if we don't anchor it, it'll roll away from us and mess up our calculation. So we anchor it and then we pull it down. And then we can see that we need to make $9,000, $9,900 in sales of sandwiches, $3,000 in soft drinks, $4,000 potatoes, etc. And then the last computation we need to do is figure out how many of these things are we selling, like the numeric number, how many sandwiches. So first thing we do is take the total sales in sandwiches and divide it by 295. Now this number here, that is the total number of sandwiches that we could possibly, that we need to sell in order to make that amount. And really what we would really need to do is round up, because if we rounded down we might be a little bit short, but we're just gonna round it to 0 decimal places because it just doesn't make any sense to round it to point whatever of a sandwich. So there we go, and we're gonna make it look normal like that. And then we can do it again here. I'll just do it one more time. We've got one more calculation that we need to do, but I'll do this here real quick. We're going to round this to 0. And I'm going to just take this guy's format here by clicking that format painter and going like that, and then it makes it look the same. But one more thing I wanted to do here is, this is the number of units that we need to sell in a year, but if we want that to be the number of units to be sold in a month, I think we'll just change this to units per year, and we'll just make a new column. And this one, let's get rid of this 12, I had just made that. So that is the total number of units we sell in a year, and now in this column here it's going to be units in a month. So this is going to be, it's got the relative calculation here, so it's not right. We want it to be that number, and we want to divide it by 12, because right now it's units per year. So basically 280 sandwiches in a year and 318 soft drinks. So this we need to well, we can just highlight them both and just copy them down. And so now, you know, it's a good idea, I think, to pause for just a second and make sure we know what it is we've done here. It's, you know, it's not just about the numbers. So I think you guys know that, but I'm just gonna write a little here at the bottom, which I guess you can't really see that. I'm gonna write here that this is the number of units that must be sold per month to break even. And right here, this is the number of units that must be sold in a year to break even. And this one here is the total sales per item that must be sold to break even. So, example, we need to sell $9,904.76 in sales of sandwiches. Right here is the weighted contribution in a $1 per dollar item. So this tells us the WI tells us the weighted contribution per item per dollar, considering total sales and contribution margin. This here tells us the percent of the total sales in this item. So example, we sell 45% sandwiches. And then this one here is our contribution per dollar, like I have here. Example, for each $1 we profit, or you know, extra 70 cents for potato salad. Total revenue by product. Example, we are forecasting to sell 20,650 of sandwiches. Okay, so I hope this clarifies any sorts of questions that you might have had from class or from whatever. I know it got a little loud and crazy in there today, and so it could have been difficult for a variety of reasons. So I hope this clarifies any questions that you might have had. Okay, and I told you in class the homework, but it's also on the bottom of the handout. And I will also put the data for this problem and the other problem on Blackboard, just in case you might want to do it in Excel. Okay, see you soon. Bye.